it was such a beautiful piece of writing. It was moving and evocative and insightful, what you might expect from 35-year-old Tatiana Schlossberg, who had already been recognized as a journalist. She had been named the Rookie Reporter of the Year by 2 different press associations in New Jersey, and then she had pivoted really to climate writing, environmental writing, and her book that was published 5 years ago called Inconspicuous Consumption, The Environmental Impact You Don't Know You Have, was honored. It was named the Rachel Carson Book of the Year. Just a beautiful writer. This, of course, was very different. It was an essay that she published in the New Yorker last November 22nd, 62 years to the day that her grandfather, President Kennedy, was assassinated. And it was a very different kind of essay because it was very personal. I'm sure many of you saw it or read it, in which she kind of came out as a person who is dying of acute leukemia. It was just, I know many of us saw the news, it was just so heartbreaking to think about her mother, Caroline Kennedy. You know, how much could she suffer? Lost her father, of course, the president, when he was assassinated, she was 5, and then her uncle, Robert Kennedy, assassinated, who was also her godfather, assassinated when she was 10 on the campaign trail. And then she had only one sibling, and of course he died in a plane crash that he was flying the plane, killed him and his wife and her sister. And then now she's losing one of her only 3 children. And it was heartbreaking too, thinking about Tatiana and her husband George. They had learned of this cancer just hours after she had given birth to their second child. The doctor had come in, it was Columbia Presbyterian in New York, where her husband was also a resident there, and said, something's off with your blood. Maybe it's just pregnancy or the delivery, or it could be leukemia. So she was like, she had swum a mile the day before at 9 months pregnant. She regularly ran 5 to 10 miles in Central Park. She said she was the healthiest person. She knew she didn't feel sick at all. She wasn't sick. But within just a few hours, they had taken her newborn out of her arms and taken her up to the cancer floor for what would begin 18 months of just brutal, painful, nauseating, sickening treatments, right? Chemotherapy, followed by 2 unsuccessful stem cell transplants, followed by all kinds of clinical trials. Just an absolutely heart-wrenching story. But that wasn't all that was in the essay. The essay was also filled with, thin moments of grace and beauty, kind of the ahas, kind of the epiphanies. There was her deep love for her husband of 8 years, who she just clearly adored. She said, not everybody can be married to a doctor, but if you can, it's a great idea. He was handsome and funny and kind and brilliant, and he put up with everything. She would scream if it was the wrong kind of ginger ale. She was so sick, and he was just right there caring for her. And then there was her little son, who she just adored, who, when her hair fell out from the chemotherapy, he was 3, and she would wear scarves, and he came to the hospital every day with a scarf on his head. And then there was her tiny little daughter, who had just learned to walk, and walking around in her little yellow rain boots with the fake string of pearls, pretending to talk on her grandmother's phone. And then there were, of course, her parents, who had brought their son-in-law and the kids into their, I'm sure, large New York apartment. And then there was her sister and brother. Her sister was a perfect match for the stem cell transplant. Her brother, Jack, who's running for Congress, was just a half match. But every time a doctor came in the room, he said, could a half match possibly be better than a full match? And then there were her friends who were at casseroles to her parents' apartment. And then there were the doctors, she said, like mad scientists who did everything to try to save her. And then there were the nurses. She was like, nurses are the best people. They would look the other way at her tea kettle and her toaster, which she wasn't allowed to have, or when she played on the Sky Bridge with her son, which she also wasn't allowed to do. She said, nurses should run the world. They're just the best people. But the essay was not just about the thin moments, the aha moments, the moments when God is shining through. The title of the article, it was originally printed as The Further Shore, but she changed it to A Battle with My Blood. Clearly about the leukemia, also maybe a veiled reference to the Kennedy curse. How can all this suffering? But there was no veiled criticism of her cousin, RFK Jr., the head now of the Department of Health and Human Services, with absolutely no credibility, no science background, no experience in government. and his craziness, his anti-vax, his anti-science, his conspiracy theories have put all of us at risk. All of us, the entire country, for generations. But it was personal to her. Personal because, of course, slashing the federal funding for cancer research, attacking the vaccines that she would desperately need to stay alive. And then Columbia, of course, was the first target of Trump, and her husband was a resident at Columbia. And right when they made the slashes to the federal funding, 180 scientists were immediately let go at Columbia. And so she was worried not just for her own health, but for her husband's job. She wondered about health care for herself. If he lost that job, would she be able to get health care? So it's this story of both the beautiful and the broken. And so we come to the story of Jesus' baptism. The way Matthew tells the story, Jesus comes into the River Jordan. He comes into the River Jordan the way the slaves made it through, the way people made it through under the Underground Railroad, the way people have walked into the water to be made new. And there is this moment where the clouds part and the Spirit descends, and there's this voice from heaven, "This is my beloved child, in you I am well pleased." It's just this thin moment of grace, right? It's that couple holding the newborn in their arms while the 2-year-old wants to push the mother's bed around like it's a bus in the hospital room. And then just like that, the baby taken from your arms and you're up on the cancer floor. And the way Matthew tells it, Jesus goes straight from the waters of baptism, and the Spirit leads him right into the wilderness, right into this place of temptation and trial, right into this place where the world is like, you have absolutely no control over everything, anything at all. And there is, the hunger that Satan reveals, and there's the power hungriness too, and it's all like there is nothing you can do. It's such an odd thing. Matthew, Mark, and Luke have all the same thing, where Jesus goes straight from the waters of baptism into this world where we have no control. Matthew makes it even more pronounced because the baptism becomes, remember, sandwiched between evil Herod on the one side and on the other side, cancer, catastrophe, all the things we can't control. And so we're left as people who really want to believe in control, who really want to believe if we're good, things will go okay. And instead, the only thing we have is this sweet word, beloved. You are my beloved child. I mean, I have preached this 40 years. Beloved. You are so beloved. Beloved. I mean, so beloved, right? This God who just loves you and wants, and this earth that just cares for you, right? Just, that's all there is. It's just this unbelievable sense that you're valued and cherished and chosen, that it's the core of your identity. There's not something you need to do or you need to be or you need to correct. It's just like love is just the base and the grounding of it all. Even when we know that, the bad things happen and we want to hedge our bets. Tatiana said all of her life she tried to be good. She tried to be a good student and a good daughter and a good sister, because the one thing she did not want to do was to cause her mother any more pain or harm. And now here she was dying of cancer. There's nothing she could do about it. And even though she knew better, in the hospital, she told herself if she was just the perfect patient, if she was nice to every single person all the time, if she never complained or had any needs or made any trouble, then the second stem cell transplant would work, right? But life doesn't work that way, right? There's no guarantee. There's no protection. The only thing you get is that you are absolutely beloved, that there is somehow inside us. And that's what the woman who died, that's what she preached, right? Every single person is of absolute value and worth. Everyone said, her wife said, oh my gosh, she sparkled. She didn't wear sparkle glitter. It was just sparkle poured out of her pores. What was the very last thing she said? I am not mad at you. Just this person of grace and love and care. That's all you get. You're beloved, you're valued, you're cherished, you're cared for. And one other thing, beloved and you belong. Preached that for 40 years. Baptism means belonging. It's not something you do. It's not something magical that happens. We tell the kids of all ages that. It's not like all of a sudden we put you under the water, we sprinkle you, and now you belong. It's like a celebration. It's a wedding. It's an announcement of something that's already true. Two people already love each other. We already belong. But it's a celebration of that we absolutely belong to one another. Beloved, and we belong. That's what we've got. When Tatiana wrote her book about the environment, she focused on 4 areas that we may not be aware of how our environmental impact touches the world. One of them was fashion, and one was food, and one was fuel, and one was the internet. Like, you may think binge watching a TV show is just maybe kind of trash for your brain, but it's hard on the environment, right? It takes water. Some places it takes coal. She talks about how the stuff we wear, somehow it's athletic stuff, a lot of fibers and the down and the fleece that really clog. And her point was not to make anyone feel individually guilty. We're not going to serve and fix the climate with that. She was about corporate responsibility. We need to understand these things and know these things so we can press our corporations and our government, right? It shouldn't be just like you shouldn't use plastic bags. Why are there plastic bags, right? Lawrence tries to outlaw them, and then Kansas legislator won't. I mean, we need corporations and governments to understand and to do the right things and to help us all do the right things. We can't just all decide to be vegan tomorrow, right? We've got to find policies and ways. And her tagline in the book over and over and over was, we'll get through this together. We'll get through this together. We'll get through this together. And that's what we heard yesterday at the vigil. Person after person stood up and talked about how we have to organize, right? It's good to show up and care and love, but we have to find a way to come together, right? To bring our voices, to realize we're a part of a collective. We're a part of a collective community of people who want a world of justice and peace and wholeness for all. More people want that than not. So where do we go from here, right? We're beloved and we belong. We think about the ways we see that. We think about the ways we care for one another, the casseroles we bring, the fact that we show up in Jeff City or Topeka to try to make it different. We think about just that urge that is deep inside to try to protect your neighbors. And so we've seen beautiful images of that across our broken country, right? From Portland and Seattle, seeing the people in the frog costumes and, dancing in the streets and ice skating and doing all the fun things to try to disrupt the craziness and the meanness. And then in Minnesota, of course, seeing our friends gather and pray and march and try to create some kind of sanity and some kind of world where we can be protected. And that image was so beautiful of that neighborhood, just the impulse of bringing out the barricade. You know how they tried to build a barricade around their neighborhood to try to protect the Somalis, try to protect the people who are vulnerable. And people brought plywood, and people brought pallets, and people brought this one woman. She brought her son's old crib. It's just something about that, a crib. You think about how you want to protect your child, right? How you do anything to protect. And bringing that crib out there, to protect some perfect stranger. I don't know the world anymore, right? A 37-year-old, a 35-year-old. So all we really know that we can do is wake up each day and be thankful for the incredible love that surrounds us. The little 3-year-old that when we say, Mommy can't get up and go to the ice cream truck, he hugs us and pats us on the back and says, I hear you, buddy, I hear you. The love and the care and the grace that we experience, to take that and to remind ourselves that we do belong to one another. We belong to every person on this planet, right? We belong to the people in Gaza and Sudan and Ukraine. We belong to the crazy, mean, vicious people too somehow. And how can we each try, each day, to get up, to remind ourselves, we will get through this together. We will get through this like God's people have before, and we will grow, and we will change, and we will be the light of God to all we know. Amen.